I just, say shalom anyways.
If you see Niflaya Young, and Niflaya Young is Kohen Mikael's daughter, and
Okay.
Moses is his granddaughter.
Okay. So that's her daughter.
That right.
And
Okay.
shalom.
Shalom. How you feeling?
Shalom. I'm doing good.
It's good to see you this morning.
Okay,
but we got you out and about.
Okay.
All right. Well, I guess you can go back to having the camera off and do what you got to do. We don't want to interrupt that. Rishona, good morning. Boker Tov. How you feeling?
I'm good. Shalom, Boker Tov. How are you?
I'm excellent. So good to be in the in the room with so many great people. Such great energy. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Oh, it's family. We're just here, and just want to target just things. So a lot of people who may not know you and your works and the thing that you've done, so that's pretty much the angle we're going to go, because we're going to go into, that's what's more important, all of the work that you've been doing, and, personal background and things of that nature. So I'm sure that everyone will enjoy it.
I'm definitely looking forward to it. Y'all got me excited. Now, I do enough interviews, to not be excited, but I'm excited.
We are.
I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
We are as well.
Well, look, without any further ado, I would like to yield the floor to you, gentlemen. Just thank you guys for everything, and looking forward to the family reunion virtually and planning this day in person as well. Sorry I couldn't be there. I don't want to distract from anything coming off camera. I got this cool neck brace on, but just told out for everybody, and I yield the floor for you, gentlemen, to start the conversation.
Baruch Hashem. Rav Yaakov, are you available to grace us with the tefillah?
Have an international call like this, and so we invoke the name of Adonai. First of all, with Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם העד, ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר הולכים לסבך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך, ולכתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקומך, ושאתם לאות על ידיך והערות הטובות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. Adonai, Sefatenu Tiftach, Fino Nagid Telatecha. Adonai, we hear you, we listen to you, we love you with all of our heart, soul, and mind. We will meditate on your Torah even today. We will teach them to those who are close to us when we get up, when we lie down, when we are on the road, and when we're at home. These words are close to us as if they were bound on our hands and on our foreheads, and they're written all over the gates of our home. And we ask that you open up our lips so that our mouth declare your praise. Baruch Adonai Leolam. Blessed is Adonai forever. Amen and amen.
Amen. Yo. Okay, so first question. Can you describe your personal background and how you come to join the African Hebrew Israelite community in Dimona?
So as with all things, I'd like to give, first of all honor and praises to the God of our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but also the God of our fathers in this dispensation of time. Those people who've taken on the mantle to continue the work of our forefathers, but to make it realistic in the times that we're living in. Mori Mishael, Honorable Ben Ami, Ben Israel, Mori Michael, and a bunch of other great giants that we stand on their shoulders today. In regards to your question, Moray, I was born into the community because my parents came to Israel. I'm the youngest of 15 siblings, but I'm the only child between my father and my mother. My mother came to Israel in 1974. But my father came, he was one of the pioneers who had come. He left Liberia, he had left America in 1967 with the first group leaving. Went into Liberia, spent the 2.5 years there in Liberia, and then journeyed up to Israel. And so, it was just so happened that later on, the Spirit had brought the both of them together. And then, they had the blessing to be able to then produce me. So I was born into the community itself. So that's really all I know. That's my identity. Now, that's who I am. I am a product, of the community here in Israel. So I didn't join or anything. Well, I guess I did join once I came to Earth, but in terms of my my belonging, I was born into it.
Right. So I knew that, but I just, this is for reference purposes for everyone else. So, how has your identity as someone who was born and raised in this community shaped your perspective on race, faith, belonging, and the significance of simply our existence, not just in Israel, but internationally?
Within the community, and I think one of the most important things was the fact that we had a lot of institutions that we built within the community to be able to sustain us, but also to be able to give us another sense of identity, another sense of belonging, another sense of pride. And within these institutions as well, we had the institutions like, for example, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, or we had the international ambassador, so we had the foreign mission, where you had a group of brothers and sisters who were continuing to spread the word about the community, about what we were building, about the idea that we had. This is in the early 60s, 70s, when it was just a small community. And so as a result of that, when I came along in 1991, these things had already been in place and they've been running for a long time. So, for example, we had a school built in 1994 in the community. So, by the time that I was of school age, then I matriculated through that system. And so the first thing was that it gave me a sense of belonging and identity for who I am, because we had people there teaching us about our identity, about our culture, about our history, and then giving us a global perspective on what's our responsibility then, not only to just be within the community, but also to spread out. And one thing that the Honorable Ben Ami, my leader and teacher, taught us was that we need to take, he used to say, with all you have, please take and expand this idea. Because it wasn't just to have a community that is established in Israel, but it was to be just, the foundation was going to be established in Israel. But then you take that and you replicate these things in a lot of other places in the world, and it gives you now a connection, on a global scale. And so it allowed us to be able to understand that it's not just us as a community in Israel or in Dimona, but we're worldwide. And it's not only the members of the community who are worldwide, but we have brothers and sisters from other communities as well who are also in the diaspora. And then not to even speak about the brothers and the sisters, throughout the African continent who are still conscious about their identity as Israelites, as Hebrews, and they've been maintaining this for thousands of years. And so just putting all these pieces together, it gave us a global understanding of, first, our identity. It connected us to all these various groups in other places, but then it also built up a sense of pride in us as children, growing up in the community, having this foundation, right? And then and knowing what was the history of us being able to get to the point that we were. We didn't start off in the best position possible in Israel. It took us a lot to get to where we were, at the least when I came along. People didn't have legal status in Israel for a long time. People weren't able to properly work and to take care of their families for a long time. People didn't have access to institutions for a long time. And so as a result of that, we were forced to build internally. And so that building internally then, and to see how it began to thrive, it just let us know that we're able to do anything we want. We're capable of doing anything we want. And so me as a youngster, just matriculating through these systems, but then also being part of the, the youth groups, and then even at a young age, traveling out on on international missions, representing Israel in the community, 14, 15, 16, 17 years old, and I'm in, 2-3 countries a year. This gave me another sense of pride in who I am, but it also gave me an understanding of the responsibility that I had as a member of that community, saying that we want to be a light to the world. We want to show a different way. We want to provide an alternative to what our brothers and sisters are experiencing worldwide. We've been called for a specific mission, and so our responsibility, one of my mentors would say, that the first generation came to Israel. It was the responsibility of the second generation to remain, so that the third generation can maintain, and then the fourth generation and going forward could be able to sustain. So our responsibility then, between me being part of the third and fourth generation, is that to maintain so that we could be able to sustain. So, building those bridges and building those, those foundations for us to actually be able to make this, an idea that it'll be one that's perpetual for generations and not just one generation struggle. So for me, and a lot of other young people who were born in this reality, it really gave us another, I like to say it gave us some oomph about ourselves, being within such a group, within such a community, it allowed us to be able to be proud of who and what we were. But then more than that, it gave us another sense of it's, I won't say responsibility, but it gave us another sense of excitement as well. Because throughout these years, we managed to be able to see some of the biggest stars coming to visit the community. A Whitney Houston coming down, and Bobby Brown, and Martin Luther King III, and the SCLC, leadership, and Muda Baruka, and Megan Good, and all of these, and Stevie Wonder, and the Neville Brothers, and Amari Stoudemire. All of these people coming and visiting this small community, it would make you think that we're just living in a small clustered community with so many people in one house. But all of these people are coming from across the world to visit our community. So it has to be something about us and about our community that people are coming all the way over here to see. It can't be the buildings. It can't be the lifestyle that we're living here. It has to be something deeper, more spiritual, more connecting, more magneting, that cause people to really want to come and experience what we have in Israel. So then it calls us to also, and me particularly, to appreciate this, having a vegan diet that eradicated a lot of the sicknesses that our brothers and sisters experience in the world. We didn't have to experience that coming up. I didn't have to experience a drive-by shootout. I didn't have to experience, my friends overdosing on drugs or on alcohol and stuff like that. So it was kind of like we were shielded, from a lot of the woes of the world. And it gave me, another sense of pride to be able to walk this earth knowing that I come from such community, and not only such community, but such a heritage, this field with greatness. So, that's a long way to say that I'm just, we were just blessed. We were just blessed on all fronts.
And we don't cut them short. Keep them just like that. Through, so that the people can see and feel it, because I'm feeling it as you speaking it, and just enjoying hearing, things that I've heard from my father being there multiple times and being close with His Excellency, and just hearing the stories, and I know about it, but so with these travelings, and how have you ever felt like you had to step in front of the misconceptions as it relates to Hebrew Israelite, in Israel, abroad, how are they received in the land by the people there and the people abroad, not just, Africa, but of course here in the West and things of that nature? How were those experiences, and were they positive, negative? How did you receive those things?
So I would say up until recently, let's say the last probably 20 years or so, or at least a little before that, we really didn't experience a lot of the misconceptions about Hebrew Israelites, or at least not me coming up, a lot of the misconceptions about Hebrew Israelites, because over the last few years, with the era of the internet and social media, so a lot of communities in other places, they have the platforms now to be able to speak, and they're exposed to a wider range of people.
Right.
And so being so exposed now to a wider range of people, then a lot of the things that have been happening that probably may not be in alignment with the way that we would go about things specifically. Those things then start to catch a lot of heat, and people specifically in Israel, really saw that as anti-Semitic and hateful and all of these things. And so, Nathaniel, you need to mute.
Yeah. Somebody needs to mute.
From the moment that these things became more public, out there, then now people don't really have, the knowledge base to be able to separate, first of all, between the various communities.
Right.
It's not a monolith.
Right.
So, but you hear Hebrew Israelite, and so as far as you're concerned, everybody is interconnected, right? So everyone in the communities have the same ideology, have the same ideas, have the same, way of going about things. And even being in Israel, although we're, immersed in the Israeli society, still, people started using those things to say, look, these are the people who represent them outside of Israel.
Right.
This community in Israel is not different from those communities out there. The only difference is that because they are here in Israel, then they're not really being as blunt as they will if they were not in Israel. But those communities that are outside of Israel, they represent them. But then I started going deeper, because I like to get to the bottom of it, to really understand the history behind things. And so what I found was that even the first members of the community who had come to Israel initially, there was a lot of clashing between the Israeli institutions and the community as well, in the earlier years, because some things that have been said, from both sides now.
Right.
But at the end of the day, what they were saying specifically was that this group came to Israel looking to, and they like to use the replacement theology, word, saying that these people want to take our place. They're saying they're the real Jews. We're not. Well, us, it really didn't matter. I mean, you can call yourself whatever you are, or whatever you want to call yourself. We're telling you who we are.
Right. Right.
So whatever you call yourself, however you identify, we're not getting into that. One of the minister of information for the community, Ashriel, he always says that we're not experts in other people's history and identity, and we don't want to be. We're experts in who we are and what we're about. And so the problem was that everybody else was trying to tell us who we are and who we aren't. No, Hebrew Israelites is this. No, Hebrew Israelites is this. No, you all are not Jews. No, you all have no connection to the ancient Israelites. No, you all. So at one point, at the least for me, I did feel the necessity to kind of jump out there, first of all, to set the record straight, to let people know who we are, what we're about, to clarify our identity for people who may not be aware of it, but also to jump in a lion's den with those people who swear that they know everything about who we are and what we are,
right,
when they have no idea at all. So, we can get into the boxing ring as well. But then, when certain things were kind of taken out of context, or certain things were said by other communities or whatever, and then, locking everybody together, we had to make the distinction between various groups, various communities or whatever, because even in the Jewish community, I mean, you have various sects within the Jewish community, from those people who are far left, like the Nitre Karta, all the way to those people who are far right fanatics, like Rabbi Kahana and his groups. So you have all of these different groups, and they don't think the same, they don't operate the same, and they disagree on a lot of things. But at the same time, they're still called Jews. They still identify as Jews. So what we're saying is that, look, everybody's entitled to whatever their doctrinal differences are. Everybody is able to to share how they see the world, their worldview, and we don't have to agree on everything. But even within your immediate family, you don't agree with all of your other siblings, but you still remain family. So for us, we don't have to agree with all of our other brothers and sisters, of the Hebrew Israelite lineage, but we still remain family. And you're not going to disconnect us from other people just because you have an issue with things that they're saying. We may have an issue with things that they're saying as well. They may have an issue with things that we're saying, because they had an issue. A lot of people for a long time had an issue with us coming to Israel. But we have to follow the direction of the Holy One of Israel, the Spirit of Israel, moving through the pioneers to make this happen. So as far as we're concerned, everybody is entitled to their opinion. But when it comes to representing, when it comes to holding down, the lineage, the identity, then absolutely, I'll jump in front of it, and I'll do it again, and I'll do it again, and I'll do it again. In representation of our brothers and sisters, wherever they may be, even if we have doctrinal differences, but we're still not going to leave our brothers and sisters out there like that.
Right.
So yeah. It's been, I have had times where I needed to, check, and because I appeared a lot in the media, then they like to use those questions, to kind of aha moments.
That's right.
But those aha moments don't really work, when you're, you already know the direction they're going to come in, because everybody really kind of attack it from the same direction. So it's kind of redundant at one point. So for us, it's like, okay, here it is again. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, that was, I think, when they had the Kanye issue and the Kyrie piece.
Right.
So I was asked to be interviewed by one of the 4 large TV channels here in Israel. Now, they gave me the impression they wanted to talk about one thing. So I got on to talk about that one thing. But as soon as the interview started, it started rolling, the interviewer jumped straight into, Black Hebrew Israelites, and what do you think about, these Black Hebrew Israelites moving in the streets in New York, chanting "We are the real Jews," and Kyrie and Kanye, and what do you think about that? And how do you feel about them? And do you have any connection with them? And do you talk to them? And what kind of message do you have to them? And it was a 5-minute conversation. I think you could actually find it on my page somewhere, on my Instagram page. But he had gotten tired at the end, because he was asking the same questions over and over again, just from different angles.
Right.
I wasn't falling into it.
Right.
And so, he I guess he got the impression like, man, okay, I'm not gonna get nothing out of this guy. Let me let him go. That's the type of things they do here in Israel. So I know that it got to be deeper out there, because
definitely
you're out there with them. We're here. We've distinguished ourselves.
Right.
But with you out there with them, most likely they're going to connect you all together and say, oh, you live in New York, they live in New York, so you have to be in the same community. But yeah, we experience those hardships, the attempt to demonize us, the attempt to strip us from our heritage and our identity, the attempt, because there are people who are still operating from this white supremacist, European supremacist viewpoint. And you can take people from where they are, but you can't take who they are from out of them. And so when they get a chance to be able to expose that once again, they do that over and over and over again, and they prove who they are. A lot of people, and I'm not saying, everybody, but there are specific communities and people, who are just blatantly racist and discriminating. And so, we have to continue to stand on the front line for our people. And that's what I've dedicated my life to. And like I said, Bore, I'll do it again and again and again and again,
That's
as
right.
much as necessary.
That's right, Baruch Hashem. It's important, especially when dealing with things like that, to maintain your peace. And we notice, of course, we know, but for people who don't know, the place where you live or where you're from is called the Village of Peace. It right. Emphasizes values like peace, kindness, and community, and things of that nature. So just share like some of those values that are implemented each and every day, not just from school, because as you said, you have a school that you attended, but how after school and into everyday community life, how are these things reinforced?
So some of the fundamental principles of the community, like you said, is the Village of Peace.
That's right.
That also puts emphasis on justice. It also puts emphasis on love. It also puts emphasis on family. It also puts emphasis on, being your brothers and your sisters' keeper. That also emphasizes the importance of community, common unity, working together for a greater good of the whole. So all of these things, we experience them regularly, quite regularly. Right. And it's seen in every facet of our life. Examples, when we talk about being my brother's keeper, being my sister's keeper, you have children who are able to walk around the community until the wee hours of the night. And because we're so close-knitted, 2,000 people who know each other, who's familiar with everybody's children, then, my child is your niece, your right. nephew, right. your granddaughter, your great-granddaughter. And so you're going to look out for them. And so in certain situations where a parent is looking for their children, if somebody see the child, pick them up and take them home. Right. You need something to eat, or you need to take a nap, but you're away from home, or you need to get something done, and so then you just jump into whatever the nearest house is, and you grab something to eat, or ask somebody to fix you something real quick. Or take a nap right there on the couch. I mean, easy. The doors are, wide open. Have locks on the doors, so, and you're not afraid nobody's going to come in and steal your stuff, or, do something crazy in your house. You feel another sense of peace.
That's right. Peace. Right.
The love that we talk about, because we define love as doing what's right to and for one another. Right. So part of that doing what's right to one another sometimes may be getting that paddle.
That's right.
When
That's right.
Out of order. And a parent is away, and so somebody then have to take care of you, like we say, and then take you home, and then you in for another one.
Exactly.
And it's not because I hate you. It's not. It's because I love you. It's because we want to instill these principles in you, so that when you go out of the community, you can continue to represent these things, and you could be able to see how they're going to benefit you in your life. That's right. So we wouldn't be worried about nobody being picked up by the police because they've been doing something crazy, because we don't act like that. We don't operate that way. And even within the community, even within Dimona, when people who are not from the community will see some of the young people who are doing certain things, because young people are young people.
Right. Right.
And so of course, they're going to probably, get caught doing something crazy. But the people who are not from the community, the other residents of Dimona, they would say, "Oh, that's not your community. Don't act like that."
Right.
The police catch young people up to no good. I mean, they respect the community enough to not even come into the community looking for the young person. They'll just come and just, notify some of the leaders that, there was some issues with your community members or whatever, young people, and we just want to bring it to you all's attention because we know that you all are going to carry that. So that's the type of respect that we have from the outside.
That's beautiful.
So these things, coming together, all of the children having the daily luncheons, in the Chadar Ochel, the cafeteria for the community. You have these various institutions within the community. If you need some help, then you're able to get that help from these institutions. You need something, to be, documented, and you have the Ministry of Information, and you need something to be, taken care of health-wise, and you have the Ministry of Health, because these things is what we live by. We say that that worship is a 24/7 thing. It's not what we do once a week, going somewhere praying and then go back to your regular life. But this is a regular routine, so we also promote, healthy living, because we love ourselves enough to be able to then maintain this vessel, which is, the house of God. It don't belong to us. And it's our responsibility to maintain it. So what we do, we want to see how we could be able to prevent sicknesses and diseases, as opposed to trying to deal with them when they come.
Exactly.
So you would have a week of no sugar, or every other day that you're not eating salt, or it being
live food. Something I think I heard, right? Live food.
You have a live food week, right? You have a live food week. Working out at least 3 times a week to be able to, get that blood flowing, get that sweat coming out. All of these things are part and parcel of the community living, in line with those principles of love, of peace, of justice, of equality, of family. So you come into a classroom and somebody was acting out. No, we're not saying you need to snitch. But we are saying that if somebody don't say who it was, then everybody is going to get it.
That's right. That's where it goes.
Right. So now it's your responsibility then to ensure that the brother that's sitting next to you, the sister sitting next to you, the sisters or whoever is in the class messing up, in order to prevent all of us from being in trouble, then we're going to step to you.
Right.
Because you're not about to get all of us in trouble. So if we step to you and you don't want to take that, then no problem. If it goes out, then we're going to make sure that it's known that we're not all involved. But obviously it don't work like that all the time.
Right.
It's like, hey, look, I ain't seen nothing, I heard nothing.
Right.
It is what it is, and that's another part of that love.
That's right.
We all have to, if we all have to go down, and let it be, let it be. We're not gonna rat our family out. But so these things, this is regularly, communal dinners, everybody coming together, communal convocations, everybody coming together. Security moving around to protect the confines of the community, ensuring that nobody's coming in order to, do whatever. I don't know.
Right.
But all of these things are right there in alignment with the greater vision for the community itself, for the community living. So this is a regular part of our routine, our daily routine every day. So you don't have to look for it and ask, how is this implemented,
right.
in your life? No, you see, how it's implemented. You just need a couple hours to be in the community, and you'll be able to see it very clearly.
Right. Hashem. So you mentioned before that you were traveling, and you've done that. And how have you gone to Africa? I'm sure you've gone to Africa, different parts of Africa, other parts of Africa. Because Israel is in Africa. For those who don't know, shares the same tectonic plate as Northeast Africa. So how does the African diaspora collective work to help unite, empower the people of African descent in Israel and abroad, outside of Africa, the continent of Africa, or maybe even within Africa itself, because they're separated by borders, which they didn't make, but let's throw that to the side. But how does that work with our people wherever we're found? How are they assisting, or have they been very helpful in the mission and in the mission statement that you support or that you represent?
So, man, you came with the questions, Baroy. So the African Diaspora Collective, for those people who are not familiar with the African Diaspora Collective, is actually a nonprofit that was started by my sister, Davisha L. Johnson, who was operating out of Atlanta. She was given, she was actually heavily involved politically and socially in Atlanta, throughout the U.S., but also on the continent. She's now on the continent itself. She's residing in Ghana now, and so we have about, it's divided into four. You have the African Diaspora Collective, that's representing North and South America, Caribbean, Israel, the Middle East, and Europe and Africa. And part of our mission statement was that, number one, to connect the diaspora with the continent itself, right? And to promote cooperative working, to promote us being able to see how we could be able to help every one of these communities wherever they are to progress. Hey, that's the little one.
Yeah.
Oh, that's my niece. Yeah.
Helping these communities progress, seeing what we could be able to do in order to be able to see, the greatness that is within these communities, wherever they are, actually, coming into its greatest fruition. And so each one of the embassies, per se, focus on three specific missions, right? And so the African Diaspora Collective in Israel and the Middle East focus on one, connecting the diaspora in America and Israel through cultural exchange programs. So, you want to bring people to Israel to be able to give them a different perspective of Israel based on the Afrocentricity of it. Because you have people who are coming to Israel or whatever and moving around and, getting the wrong impression of what Israel is and who Israel is, because you're getting it from people, who are going to whitewash it and show you something, that's far away from what it actually is.
Right.
And then also, secondly, so we want to organize tours coming to Israel for what we call the sacred visitation for a few days, to help you to move around Israel, to be able to see Israel from that African view, right? So you could be able to actually see how we fit into this greater story. That's number one. Number two, we also want to promote economic exchange, right? So that economic exchange could come in the way of cooperative business ventures. It could come in the way of investments. It can come in the way of business exchange, and it could come also in the way of establishment of businesses, in external, jurisdictions. So somebody who's in Africa but wants to establish a business in Israel or in the U.S., we assist, by connecting the people with, whoever is necessary to be able to get that moving. And number three, to take a lot of the institutions that we've built specifically in the Village of Peace in Israel and to replicate those things in other places. Because once we have the ability to be able to prove that these things are actually working for our community for 50 plus years, and we understand now how they could also benefit communities in other places, and we want to take that information and we want to help them to implement that as well. But not only to implement those institutions, but also to give them the viewpoint of how it could be economically sustaining as well, how it could also be able to create jobs, how it could be able to help with the growth and the expansion of the community. So all of these things is what the African Diaspora Collective, specifically in Israel, focus on. But in addition to that, also we focus on internally on strengthening the relationships between the various communities in Israel. Because most people don't know that there are more than 500,000 people of African ancestry. We don't say African descent, because we on the up and up.
Okay, gotcha. I love it.
So this is the ancestry. Right. So within these communities here, we want to strengthen the relationships between these various communities to operate as a unit. Now, yeah, we have a lot of things that are very different. The Afro-Bedouin community is very different from the Ethiopian community. The Ethiopian community is very different from the African Hebrew Israelite community. The African Hebrew Israelite community is very different from the Afro-Palestinian community. Right. But then at the same time, there's something also that brings us all together. That's one, some of the experiences that we have at the hands of the Israeli institutions and the government. Right. Number two, the underdevelopment, the purposeful underdevelopment of our communities. Number three, we don't have a voice, or we don't have the economic ability to be able to be represented in the halls of government like we should be. And as a result of that, then people who are smaller than us in numbers are able to get whatever it is that they want, because they have either the economic power and ability, or they have the political numbers to be able to place people in strategic areas that'll be able to represent their interests. And so we want to bring these communities together and have one voice is speaking for our communities. We also are looking into each of the communities and seeing what and how could we be able to assist each other with overcoming some of the difficulties and some of the challenges that each of these communities are experiencing. So, for example, we were threatened with deportation out of Israel. Over the last 4 years, we were fighting this. But this wasn't new to us. We had been threatened with deportation since we arrived to Israel. And there were people who were deported in 1973, 1975, 1986. And then you had, just individuals being picked off along the way. But we were able to take that experience then and to share it, for example, with our brothers and sisters from the asylum seeking community, from the Eritrean and the Sudanese community, to see how we could, because, Israel really didn't want to provide to them the asylum that they were looking for from Eritrea and from Sudan. And so as a result of that, they didn't know how to go about things. So we needed to share some of the information with them about how to go about this politically. You have the community, the Ethiopian community that was, some of the young people were killed by the police violence. Young baby came up missing 2 years ago, and they still haven't found her. They say they don't have no information about her. So we were working together in order to be able to continue to blast that information out so that it wouldn't just disappear, and it's mainly coming from our communities, because outside communities don't really care like that. Nope. And and only recently, this is funny though, Maureen, we've been talking about police violence. We've been talking about how the institutions have been working against our people. Right. We've been talking about, some of the injustices that we experienced and that we continue to experience. But only now, suddenly, you hear more and more voices from other communities that are now talking about the police violence. Right. This is crazy. How is the police doing these things to people? They're operating in violent measures. The judicial system needs reform because it's discriminatory, and some of these other institutions won't allow people with a certain skin hue to be able to climb up to the top. Right. And we need to then go in and deeply reform it. But bro, this is what we've been talking about for a long time. Right. But now when it comes to other communities, when it comes to your doorstep, now you're more inclined to listen. But you're not really listening to us. You're feeling it, as a result of what they're doing to you. Now you want to cry out about it. But the funny thing about it is that now is receiving more airtime on TV, radio, and other places, because now it's happening to other communities didn't believe this would happen to them.
Right.
You know, so for us then, you know, the African diaspora just want to bring these things out to the forefront.
Right.
We want to be that voice for our brothers and sisters here in Israel, but also connect us to our brothers and sisters wherever they are in the world. We want to be able to create those links. We want to be able to create that relationship that allow us to be able to all work together for the greater good of the whole. Other communities do it.
Right.
Other communities have, you know, have funds and establishments and organizations and foundations and all of this, you know, that's geared towards the sustenance of these communities and of these people that are geared towards, you know, using, you know, these funds to be able to affect the political landscape, so that you can have people in there that are representing your cause because you're backing them, and then they get in there. So we need to also have something to come to the table with from a position of strength, a position, you know, of knowledge, a position that will allow us to be able to then be effective in what it is that we're doing. And so that's what the African Diaspora Collective is doing, not only in Israel, but also worldwide. I think we lost him already. Did we?
He's back.
Oh, okay. He said it was so rough that it knocked you out of the chat.
Right, I'm telling you, right? Listen, they don't want to hear the truth. They don't want to hear the truth.
Yeah.
True. I do apologize. Some technical difficulties. But as we know, we experience a lot of the same things, and you've just explained pretty much how the experience has been, you know, for a person of, how do you say, you don't want to say African descent? What are we supposed to be using?
African ancestry.
African ancestry. So it seems like, has it changed over time, or has it pretty much remained the same? Have they always been receptive, or always been out to, you know, get rid of us? Or how was it, you know, like I said, from being a Black person? Because the perception is, whenever you say, you know, we have a community in Dimona, most people say, like, there are Black people in Israel. Like, how do you know, that's mainly probably in the West. I don't know if you experienced that on the continent, but I know in the West here, when you say that, they're like, what do you mean? There's, it's like they're saying, are there Black people in Africa? Like, no,
right,
yes,
right.
there are people Black in Israel. So how do you combat that, you know, that perception of, hey, it's European? You know, it's like, look, I'm living proof that it's not. So
yeah. Well, you know, see, the thing is, okay, so I want to separate the two. I want to talk about the Israeli society, but I want to also talk about the establishment, right? Because the establishment is no different than the establishment in America and in Europe, because the establishment itself wants to be an establishment that's based on the Western liberal democratic principles, right? So that's if you're looking at the court system, that's based on the common law of Britain. If you're looking at the political system, you know, that's based on, again, this, you know, this European idea, this Western idea. If you're looking at, you know, how the institutions are functioning, you know, they're taking a lot of inspiration from the West, and Israel really believes, you know, the establishment really believes that Israel is part of the West.
Right.
I'm trying to figure out, you know, how, you know, that one, it does not fit, you know, in our identity,
right,
as Israelites. If you say that you're Israelites, if you say that you're Jews, you're part of the house of Israel, that does not fit with these values. That's number one. Number two, we are right in northeastern Africa.
Right.
So, you know, the West is far away from us.
Right.
But you import those Western values, and you have a society that's operating on Western values, because the establishment is trying to make this as much as possible part and parcel in alignment with the Western liberal democratic values that most of them don't even fit what it is we're trying to do in Israel. You're bound to be faced with issues, with problems that you can't solve by using that idea, because that idea is not, first of all, is proven not to be effective, and it's failing and it's falling. But secondly, implementing those things in a region like this, you could be you would stand out like a sore thumb. And I think that in a case like that, yes, Israel is probably institutionally stand out as a sore thumb because those principles, those values don't fit here. But in terms of the Israeli society itself, is made up of various groups. It's made up of 68 or 69% of the society is actually Ethiopian, Mizrahi, which is those people who come from northeastern Africa, and all of the other Arabian nations, the Iraqi Jews and the Yemeni Jews, and all of those people. And then you have those who come from India, the Bnei Ephraim and the Bnei Israel. You have those who come from Ethiopia, the Beta Israel. And then you have the African American Jews. You have the African Americans. You have the Afro Bedouins. You have the Afro Palestinians. So all of these people are making up the society of Israel. But then on the flip side of it, then you do have also, yes, the Ashkenazi community and all those people who are coming from Europe. But the identity of the country itself, the makeup, the demographic makeup of the country itself is actually less European.
Wow.
It's less European, and it's more North African, Arabian, and Sub-Saharan African peoples.
That shouldn't be surprising, but as you know, as a person who's grown up here in America, not to cut you off, but that's kind of the perception that I got, that they shipped people from, whether it's Spain, Russia, and Germany, all of these different places to populate what they consider the state of Israel, or the state of Israel, and to make it seem, or to, I guess, to help populate it with those genetics. So that makes a whole lot more sense, the way that you just explained it. And that was very clear. That makes a whole lot more sense and clarifies a whole lot of other misconceptions, even for me. So I could admit that.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the society of Israel, you wouldn't know, because when you look at Israel, when people think about Israel, they're thinking about it from the political perspective.
Right.
Because most people only look at Israel politically. The issue between the Israelis and the Palestinians and all of that. But Israel's way more than just a political establishment, besides the fact that, it is the center of spirituality. Right. Besides the fact that it is that ancient land that our forefathers either were exiled from, some fled, and ended up in exile for a long period of time. But it still stands, it still exists. But everybody's fighting over it. Everybody want, it to be theirs, but everybody want it to be theirs, but at the same time, you're not really taking into consideration the identity of what Israel is actually supposed to represent. And so you continue to put these European faces out there thinking that this is your best bet, thinking that this is, these are the people who could best represent Israel. Even now during the war, you see a lot of people, the people who get on to represent Israel to the media, majority, if not all, are Europeans.
Right.
Yep. And it gives the people, a false impression of the makeup of Israel. But that's their fault, because these are the only people who you see when you say Jew. Nobody's thinking in their heads about the Ethiopian community. Nobody's thinking about the Igbo community. Nobody's thinking about the Abayudet. Nobody's thinking about Hebrew Israelites. Nobody's thinking, when you say Jew, nobody's even thinking about Iraqi Jews. Nobody's thinking about,
Right.
B'nai Priam from India. Nobody's thinking about the Kafain Jews from China. Nobody's thinking about the Sefway and nobody's thinking about these people. When you say Jew to people, they're thinking specifically about the ones who are dressed in all black.
That's right.
Europeans with the curly cubes on the side. This is the idea that they get, which is fundamentally flawed.
Right.
Fundamentally flawed.
Absolutely. That's right.
But again, I mean, these are the impressions. So you pump it out there so much and so often that people then use these definitions as a representation for a peoplehood that is far off the mark. I mean, if this is the only impression, you can't even understand what it is that we're talking about.
That's right.
Because then you're going to say that we now are practicing a white person's religion.
That's right. That part. That part, right?
We are part of this Zionist and this and that. But no, we have our identity. This is who we are. This is what we are. And but people who are looking at it from a very narrow lens would never be able to understand that as it actually is. Rav Yaakov?
Yeah, they're queuing me up for question and answers. they've been telling me. I've been watching.
Y'all have been doing
but
phenomenal.
We're gonna have to get them back again because there are too many different elements that we want to get into, and whether it's personal or again on Zoom, we're gonna do this again.
Well, I will say before we segue, I do want to say again, Toda to Ashriel, he has committed to coming back again. But I just want to be fair. We see more people are coming into the room and they're getting a little anxious and antsy, and people are coming off mute. So we do want to remain in an orderly fashion, please. We've asked that if you guys can message Rav Yaakov, the moderator, first. We will get to everyone's questions and orders. We're not going to just all inundate and come off mute at one time. So I will still yield the floor back to Mora Yaya and Rav Yaakov to moderate in Ashriel. But again, we're just going to try to answer our questions in an orderly fashion so everyone can get heard.
Yeah, so it was extremely enjoyable. And, anyone that has questions, I think you were directed to send them to Rav Yaakov. And
That's right.
I'm sure he has them. If you've sent them to him, and if you have any new ones, you could either send them to him or put them in the main chat, and he can see them and read them.
Yes. Oh, send them as a DM, and that way, because I know we want to.
You know who it is. Okay.
Make sure we're not redundant, because sometimes people are giving details. I want to start with people who are members of our study session, because you're there every week. Just a reminder: House of Hashem has a weekly study and a WhatsApp group. Maybe we can drop how you can join the WhatsApp group and the study in the chat between More Yaya, who did an excellent job interviewing today, and Omar or Shimshon. So if we can help other people know how to join the weekly chat, that's excellent. So those who are a part of that weekly chat, we're going to take your questions first. I already have them in DMs. Rishona has the most detailed ones. Rishona says the following. And again, excellent job, Ms. Leon Ashriel. Her questions are, as the little people and young adults get older and are exposed to worldly influences through social media and various other avenues, how has the Dimona community stayed up to date to find balance and or to counter the desire or the temptation that their youth may experience with wanting to try something different or assimilate into other cultures or religions that are they're being exposed to? So that's part one of a question. Again, kind of dealing with the social media, young millennials, Gen Z, and the temptation to just do something else completely. The second part is related to youth, and he mentioned the importance of legacy, maintaining the community, and creating new links. We all know the importance of passing the baton. So how have you been preparing your youth and young adults to take up the mantle, to continuing upon what has been built this far? So part A is about outside influences on the youth, and what is it like in terms of their assimilation or retention? And then the other part is, what are you doing to proactively prepare young adults to take leadership roles, take the mantle? So
those are some beautiful questions.
Well done from Rishon and Moses.
So I'll start from the first one. In regards to the effects that the world is having on the community's youth, I think everybody's affected by it. And not only are they affected by it now, but it's always been throughout the generations in the Israelite culture at different periods of time where a lot of our people backslid. Some of our people, as a matter of fact, you go all the way back and coming out of Egypt, children of Israel were looking like, we need to be like everybody else. You brought us out here to the wilderness so we could die out here. We need to go back to Egypt. And then once we made it into the land, it's like, you have Yahu's directing us in all our ways, but we're looking around and everybody have a king. We probably should have a king as well. And then, we continued on, and then we began to adopt a lot of those foreign cultures, foreign traditions, and then we were exiled out of the land, and then we were blessed to be able to return, and then again we were exiled out of the land. So these things, and every generation is going to have, or is going to be faced with these, especially now in age of social media. They're going to be faced with this challenge of how do we adjust to the times that we're living in now, and the type of effect that social media and the world is having on the minds of the young people. Because the young people, it was a period of time where the majority of us, we just stay within the community, but now people are all over. People are living in different places in Israel and in the world. We are part and parcel of the Israeli society. We're being enlisted into the military. People are working outside the community, so they're coming in contact with a lot of these other things. But one of the things that I think that we're actually doing that I think could be more effective, but I think it is effective. I think the importance of creating these extracurricular activities and programs that brings the youth together under a specific banner, and discussing certain things with them, and providing some alternatives to what they may be experiencing on the outside. Preparing them, for example, for their enlistment into the military, letting them know what they're expected to experience in there based on the experiences of people who had preceded them, and then walking them through the military service, and understanding what challenges they may be experiencing, so that we could know how then to not only provide to them, coherent answers and responses to be able to deal with that, but also so we could know for the generations to come that this is another thing that they may be up for experiencing later on down the line. But again, is that dynamic of being in the world but not being of the world is one that is a strong dynamic. And so we have to, and I always say that we have to, if we don't give equal or more fight to what they're experiencing on the outside, then then it's a possibility that that'll win. But I also believe, and I know that a lot of people who had, for example, left the community in the past, young people wanted to go out to experience, to see what the world is like, and they found out, oh, it's a scam. It's not really what we thought it was going to be. But they had to go and experience it themselves. And you can't really prevent them from being able to do so. If somebody decides they want to go out and experience something for themselves, the only thing we could do is to give them as much knowledge, as much understanding, as much wisdom, and then at one point they'll have to make decisions for themselves. And we can't force them into doing anything. But as Yah would have it, a lot of people who went out and experienced a lot of things, some people had some near-death experiences and others, it caused them, like the prodigal son, to want to go back home. And when they came back home, then they wanted to share a lot of what those experiences were that they experienced with the people who have a yearning to go out and to experience that out there. And they just let them know it's not what you think it is.
Right.
The grass is not green on the other side. Yeah, we could live in this world. You could live wherever you want, in Israel or in the world. But I thought that eating meat was something that was going to be incredible. But I ate it, and like not me individually, but I'm saying generally, somebody, I know people, they want to try out some meat, and we're vegans. They're like, oh, this is what it. Oh, I can do without this. But they had to experience it. So yeah, we're doing as much as we can internally, and I think more could be done as well. But I think also that the lived experiences of some people could also be able to provide, an avenue for those people who may be really interested in what the world has to offer, that is contrary to a lot of the standards that we uphold within the community. And some people are going to go out and experience it. We just pray that after they experience or whatever, they still are able to make it back home.
That's right. Now, on the second, I was going to say that second question is also key too. Go ahead. You're about to get it.
Can you repeat the second question?
Second question specifically was from Rishwana's words. He mentioned the importance of legacy and maintaining the community and creating new links. We all know the importance of passing the baton, but how have you been preparing your youth and your young adults to take up the mantle to continue building upon what has been done thus far? So, how do we prepare the young? One thing to just do, keep doing what you've been doing, but how are you also in your kahila, your community, preparing the youth to be leaders, have something that's not been done before?
So I think this is something that won't be unique to our community. I think it's probably worldwide, where at some points in time where sometimes the elders, it's hard for them to relinquish a little bit of that power and control and whatever. One, because they may not be fully confident in the generations to come to actually carry it on the way they see it, because they're operating still from probably 1960s, 1970s, 1980s, 1990s mindset that may not necessarily be in alignment with 2025. But at the same time, shaping and molding some of the leaders within the youth that have influence over their peers and that are able to use that influence for doing right. So we have right now, well, in the past we had the decade of the youth, right? That within that entire decade, it was, what do we do, like Rishon was asking, to ensure that the legacy of the community continues and is not a one generation struggle. So what do we do then? One, you start to incorporate these young people into some of these institutions. So every young person choose an institution that he'd like to be in, and then that institution begins to groom him so that he could then later on be able to expand that institution, or at least be an active member of it wherever he is. That's number one. Choose an institution, go into something, be a part of it. Number two, the Oved Lomed program, the work and study program, that we're now going to take youth to different places in the world where we have extensions, where we have jurisdictions, and we'll allow them to see that the community is actually larger than just the community in Dimona. we're worldwide. So then it opens up your mind to the possibility of you not only being in Dimona or just in Israel, but you have opportunities also in other places in the world. Number 3, encouraging the community members or the youth to not only seek a job, right, but to go into to collect accolades and other things that will be effective within the community itself. And in that way, we're able to build up the youth where they could be able to have real world tools to be able to actually implement a lot of what they'd like to do. So giving them that space to be able to do it, allowing them to be able to do what they need to do. Some people are gonna make mistakes, and we need to allow some space for making those mistakes, but allow them, push them to go and to be and to do as much as you can, and so in that way, we then see that now these people are tried and proven. And so we're confident enough now to be able to pass it on to them, but also knowing that there's a possibility that there are going to be some mistakes along the way. They may not do everything perfect, but at the same time, the people who really want to do it, encourage them, give them what they need, the back end, to be able to go and to be the greatest they can. So, Rishona, I hope and I pray that really answered your questions.
Yefedi Barta, you've spoken really eloquently. We have, just again, I would say, if you haven't already, DM me, direct message me, or I'll go over your questions, because we do have a good queue, and basically allotting the full thought, since we're making good headway on time. So just one last call, because we already have a queue. We're going to go to the next person, who's a regular House of Hashem member, Charlie Hillel, who asks, weren't the people of Dimona offered a chance to go through an absorption center and mass conversion with the Israeli rabbinate to integrate into Israel? The additional context would be the deportations are because you're not seen as Jews in all regard, Yehudim L'Kol Davar, by the state of Israel. You're seen as Americans who have overstayed a visa and their children. So he's asking again, wasn't your community offered that? And I assume most people didn't take it. And can you explain whether that is true, whether there was an offer, and whether it is true that people are still of the mind not to take advantage of Aliyah approaches other than stay the course?
So the deportations are not because we overstayed our visas and then we're now just seen as African Americans who came and overstayed their visa, because from 1989 up until 2003, at each of these junctures, there were establishment, or there were rulings that the Ministry of Interior had given to the Director Generals of the Office of Interior to handle the status issue of all the community members. But now, when you look at how the Israeli institutions work, they're not so efficient. And it's not that they're not efficient because they don't know how to be efficient. They don't push forward nothing that is not in their best interest as far as they see it. And one of the things within the political sphere right now has been that the politicians or the government has been saying that they're actually being led by the deep state, they call it. That these people who have been in these institutions for years and years and years, they're the ones who have the real control, the real power, because they're the ones who have to carry out whatever the directions are. And like some of the people said before, when we go to elections, see, Israel is really unique in terms of the political landscape, because when we go to elections, those elections are not you don't have a president that's elected and then for the next 4 years that these people are going to be in power. We have what is called a coalition government. Coalition government means that we have 120 seats in the Knesset, which is the parliament. And so whoever is able to then gather 61 at the least signatories to them being prime minister, they're the ones who then will receive the onus to establish a government. And so you could have, a large party like the Likud party, for example, with 35 seats, and then a bunch of other parties with like 7, 8 seats, 2 seats, 3 seats, 5. And in order for that government to remain intact, even the people who have 2 seats could be able to then determine how the government is going to go, because even if they pull out, then the government is finished. It's fallen if you only have 61 seats. And so in that case, it allows for the space for people to be able to, especially these small parties, to exploit the government in such a way where they can receive whatever it is they want to receive. And so in terms of, these institutions, the people who are in the institutions, they're there for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, but the government members, they may rotate. They may come in for 1 year. Like, for example, we went to elections 5 times in 2 years. So you had 4 different ministers of interior within 2-year period of time. It takes them a little time to study, to learn the office, to understand what's going on. By that time, they're out. But the people who are still in those institutions, they're still there. They see people come and go. So it's been the issue with the people who are in the institutions. They didn't implement what the government had put forward. They just didn't do it. And so every time we had to go to different ministers. So it wasn't a matter of these people being, illegal residents in Israel, because there have been a lot of decisions that the government just didn't carry out. And so as a result of that, this is why we're in this predicament, because you have 2,000 members, and instead of saying, okay, we're going to just go ahead and blanket cover everybody all at once, no, we're going to call 20 members up here. And then in 2 months, we're going to call another 30 members. And then in 5 months, we're going to go. And then the next minister comes in and he's like, okay, we're not going to continue, the previous policies. So that's an issue. So that has nothing to do with our status as Jews or not. Why? Because there are people who came also in the 1960s. There's this community that's called the Beit El community of German Christians, not Jews or nothing, but they're German Christians who came to Israel right around the same time that we came to Israel. The leader, she said that she had received an inspiration from God to return to the Holy Land as a Christian. So she came with her community members. They established themselves and never left, but they received also legal status as well. There are a lot of people who also converted, people of African ancestry, Moray, who converted as well, who still weren't allowed to make Aliyah to Israel. There are people from the Ethiopian community who are considered Jews, who half of the community is here, half of their family members are here already. They arrived on the Operation Moses or Operation Solomon, but half of the family members are still left in Ethiopia. Now they know that they're Jews. Half of the family members are here, and they still refuse to bring the remaining family members from Ethiopia because they say they don't have a budget. But in the meantime, they have a budget for the Europeans to continue to allow them to come to Israel. So, that has nothing to do with our identity as Jews or not, nothing at all. But in regards to the conversion issue, yes, they did offer conversion initially, but it wasn't in good faith. It was, if you all do such and such and such, then we'll allow you then to remain in Israel. But then what they say, part of the process is that you can't undergo a conversion procedure in Israel. You have to undergo the conversion outside of Israel and then come back into Israel as a Jew. And you would have to undergo a conversion procedure that is in accordance with the orthodoxy, not reform, not conservative, not reconstruction. We don't identify those. You would have to go through the orthodoxy. Who's going to do that? We're not leaving Israel to go and convert and then stay out there for however long, and then you have issues with coming back into Israel. Nobody's going for that. So absolutely not. And secondly, we don't have to convert to become halakhically Jewish. We're not claiming that we're halakhically Jewish. We're claiming that we're Israelites who returned to our ancestral home. And the law of return of 1950 said that anybody who is honest and who really believes that they're part of the lost tribes or house of Israel from wherever they are in the world, they then have the right to return to Israel. But they amended that law in 1970 when they saw there's too many of us that started coming into Israel claiming that we are part of the house of Israel. So what they said was in this amendment in 1970 that they gave a definition then for who is a Jew, because all these people were coming, mainly people who were coming. See, it was cool when people were coming from other places, but when we started coming from America, people of our skin hue saying that we're part of the house of Israel, they hadn't, because the Ethiopian community only came in late 1970s, 1980s, 1990s. So we were the only ones who were of this dark skin hue who were saying that we're part of the house of Israel. So they had to prevent that from happening. So they said, this is the definition of a Jew. Someone who was born to a Jewish mother, according to halakha, or somebody who was converted to Judaism and is not part of another religion. We couldn't prove that. But we had already started coming. And so they amended that law and retroactively revoked the status from those people who had already received it under the initial law of return. So, it was just a political game. And in order to be able to make it seem okay in the eyes of the world, they had to make reasons for them going through what they were going through to revoke our citizenship and all of that kind of stuff. And so they said that these people are illegal and all this stuff. But you don't give illegal people homes to stay in and monies like for aliyah and all of that like we received initially. So it was just nonsense.
So to clarify the question, that was your take on how things got to where we are. You're a millennial, many of us are, and then we were talking about preparing a future generation. So what would you recommend people do as they get their adult age? They're trying to marry, they're trying to also establish something for their children where there's no more question anymore than there is for any other group of Olim, of immigrants to Israel. What would you recommend they do in terms of their, let's say, spiritual practices or their understanding of the most minimum way of getting a Jewish conversion or joining the army or whatever? What is the pathway that you would recommend? Respects what you've already struggled to establish as your own unique identity, but also says, look, we need to be able to have full access to what we're paying for taxes for in this country and be able to not be seen as confused with illegal immigrants. It's one thing if it was you were alive in the 70s. If you were born in 2000 and you're 25 years old, how do you just fix it, in your view, the right way?
Well, one, those people who are, because even though we're permanent residents, the majority of community members are permanent residents. And so in 2014, the Interior Minister then decided that because prior to that, in order to receive citizenship or become naturalized citizen, you would have to renounce your American citizenship. But from 2014 going forward, all of those people who served in the military, because we had started serving in 2003, so this wasn't a reason for people to start serving in the military. It's just for us, part of our dedication to Israel, and that military is watching over the people in Dimona as well, just like it is anybody else in Israel. But from 2014, if you serve in the military, then you're eligible to receive citizenship, and your immediate family members, your nucleus. So then that provides then the opportunity for people who are already going to be serving anyways to receive citizenship, but not needing to to renounce their American citizenship. And in regards to people who are looking to make aliyah to Israel, even if you went through the conversion process, I can't really guarantee that they're going to allow that, because I know that they've really been hard on people from African ancestry, and making aliyah to Israel. Even if you went through some of the most stringent procedures, they've been hard on people who are of African ancestry. But you also have those people who've been coming from Europe who don't even profess that they're Jewish, who are married to people who are not Jewish, but they allow them to return under what is called the grandson or granddaughter's clause, which means that if your grandmother or your grandfather even were considered Jews, even if you're third generation now and your mother and your father no longer practice, they're far away from it, they're married to people who are not Jewish, you still are eligible to make Aliyah to Israel, which is absolutely absurd. So you could always find, and they amend the laws often, to kind of bend and shape them for them to be able to meet, whatever the requirements are for people who they want to make concessions for. So they can do that for us as well. I can't say what's the specific way, what's the exact way, because I know people who went through all of the right channels and still, still came up against rejection. So I really can't say.
Indeed. So we'll appreciate the answers to Charlie's question. Just to keep, you're doing great on your detail and amount of time. We're about 11:30 Eastern time. So I saw one more question from a member. That was Nathaniel, and then a question from Nick F. So I appreciate your patience. Again, we encourage you to be a part of the weekly study. So we're going to prioritize the people who worship and study Torah with us on a weekly basis. But we also want to make sure everybody knows that their questions are valid. Let us see here. Nathaniel asks, please ask Ashriel about the relationship between Rabbi Ben Ami ben Israel, or I guess Ben Ami ben Israel, Nasik Asiel, Nasik Shaliach, Moreh Mishael, who's the father of Moreh Yahya, who's been our host, and Kohen Mikael, head of the Hebrew family of Guyana, and ultimately Hashava Israel, the movement, and the legacy that should be maintained and sustained for years to come based on their work. So all of these elders in these communities that intersected with studying in Israel with your leadership, what are some commonalities among these communities, and how can these specific communities work together to help the geopolitical position of African Hebrews worldwide?
Beautiful
the communities
question.
that whose leaders studied with your leadership, particularly. They're 70 or 80 or passed away at this point, but they have communities. How do we work together?
In regards to the relationship between our leadership in Dimona, Prince Ashriel, His Excellency Rabbi Ben Ami, Prince Shaliach, along with the leadership, other communities like Moreh Mishael, like Kohen Mikael, like others, they had a beautiful relationship, but also based on what I understood, because once I came along, they'd already been friends, for years. They had already been working together. But based on what I could gather from some of the leaders within the community, they were big on two things. They were big on the unity of these communities working together for the greater good of the whole. And they were big on the necessity to have a relationship between the African diaspora or the Hebrew diaspora and the Hebrew community here in Israel. So whatever was necessary to be able to strengthen that relationship, to build those bonds, because remember, it was a period of time where we were struggling in Israel because we didn't have access to these institutions, because we didn't have access. And so, it was the Moreh Mishael, and, others who were on the front line assisting us from the outside, who we, Rabbi Ben Ami and Prince Ashriel and others went to, these leaders to speak to them about them assisting us and strengthening our position here in Israel. Because if we had a strong position on the international front, then we could also be able to affect a lot of things that we were experiencing internally. But if we didn't because we didn't have, the political clout, we didn't have the money, we didn't have anything internally. But if we had, the type of leverage necessary from the outside, on the international front, they could be able to then affect everything that we're experiencing here, to change that in our favor, then that's what we need to do. And so, it was a relationship that was really built on, a common interest and a common desire to really see our people rise above their current conditions and to be able to strengthen the community here in Israel, because it was going to also open the way for our brothers and sisters then from the diaspora to one day be able to also come home. So it's important to continue that relationship. One, because it gives the both of us leverage on both ends of the spectrum to allow us to be able to affect some things that are happening on the international front that some of our brothers and sisters may be experiencing on the international front from some of the Jewish communities, mostly Ashkenazi communities, where we tell the people here that, listen, we have 50 years of experience in Israel, and we've built for ourselves, a pretty good name. And we have access to a lot of these institutions, and we can go right in and say, listen, what our brothers and sisters are experiencing in New York from your various communities, you need to talk to your people on that end and tell them to calm down. Or in turn, we want to push some programs, some projects in other places in the world, and we need you then to connect to your folks out there and to let them know that we need to get these programs going, that we need to put in some monies to be able to strengthen those programs. And from the outside as well, I'm just giving an example, but it's vast. But from the outside, one, we still have that political clout internationally. Two, we're still working as a unit for the greater good of the cause here and there. And number three, it then will allow us the ability to be able to make the process for some people who are looking to actually make Aliyah to Israel smoother, because we could be able to, put our names down as people who are going, because they want to know from somebody who was of some type of that has some type of name or backing that these people are with you. So you let them know, yes, we're with the community. There have been people who are looking to come to Israel where they stopped them at the border. Like, no, who are you? You can't come in Israel. Like, no, I'm part of the community in Dimona. Dimona. Oh, okay, you with Dimona? Go ahead. We know them. But we want to make sure that we strengthen that relationship and that we keep that relationship going with these communities, understanding that we have common cause, understanding that we are family, and understanding also that we could be able to strengthen each other from the diaspora and into Israel, and be able to open up the way also for things that may not be possible for you all to do from out there, but we can do it from here, or vice versa. We may not be able to do some things from here, but we could be able to tell y'all, hey, we need y'all to turn up the heat from out there. It could be able to affect some of the things here. So that's very important for us to uphold.
Well said. So we're going to circle back to that with the final question that came in. But there's Nick F, who's also been waiting to have a question answered. They're both related to joining the community, so there's still kind of actually a tie. It happens to be. Nick F asks, if there's an Israelite in America, from America, living in East Africa, how can they join the community in Dimona?
So there is what is called an absorption process that every new member of the community who's joining would have to go through wherever you are. And so we have jurisdictions in East Africa. We have jurisdictions in Kenya primarily, but other places also in East Africa. We have also jurisdictions in other places in Africa and throughout the US. So my suggestion would be to contact one of the jurisdictions wherever you are and to ask them specifically about what is the process that's necessary for them to go through and want to be absorbed into the community. So I think we don't have to expand on that.
Further is More Shemuel Lewili Israel, Guyanese origin, who also serves in the Hebrew family of Charlotte, which is under Kohen Mikael, who ordained him. He says that, of course, he hopes his question isn't too late, It says, how does someone gain access to Israel right now without any aliyah paperwork as a skilled professional? So there's was it Ovdim Zarim or something like that? Foreign workers programs. That's coming to mind. Maybe that's what he's referring to. You're not necessarily an old age, you're not an immigrant, but how does that work now with the war? And then generally accessing Israel without aliyah.
Well, accessing Israel in the sense of actually relocating or just visiting?
As a skilled professional, so I would say like what is it called? Ovidim Zarim, isn't that what it is?
Yeah,
Like
those are
foreign workers.
But foreign workers, they really specifically dealing with the people who are working sometimes in hospitality, some dealing with the elderly people and all of that. So that's I don't think that's relevant here, but I don't know. I don't know what's the process for skilled workers to come and to be able to work. I'm guessing probably if I could take a guess that it may be that if you communicate with an organization or company that you intend to work for in Israel, then I'm sure they probably could be able to take you through a process that's necessary as somebody who's coming to actually work in Israel, on behalf of that company, because it's not unique to Israel that skilled workers are coming to work, but I highly doubt that you as a skilled worker will come first to Israel and be here, and then while you're here, try to get a job, on they're working visas as well. You know what I mean? You could get a working visa to come to Israel, but I think that the best way, if I'm just taking a guess, it's probably through an organization that you intend to work for, and then let them, do all the paperwork for you.
Indeed. So I'll add something. House of Hashem was about building the bridges and finding the bridge builders between the mainstream of our, let's say, historically Black communities. The mainstream meaning we have elders in them. In Kingdom of Yah, you have elders in Shaba, which is under Kohen Mikael, Moreh Mishael. You have I'm up here in Philadelphia because there's Beit El in Philadelphia, a couple of hundred people here in Philadelphia. These cities throughout the Great Migration era and the revolution of the 70s, 60s, and 70s created communities that have lasted. However, people who grew up also don't know how to interact or properly approach building the bridge, and you need an environment for bringing those people together. So we appreciate the people who are like yourself willing to go step out of your home community, your home congregation, and talk to a broader audience. The other part of it is my role in being ordained as a rabbi with the International Israelite Board of Rabbis. So these would be historically African Israelite rabbis who've studied together for a century or so. We are in a position to also engage with the broader Jewish community and to also do activism, but also resolve those halakhic questions, the questions of who says that you are a Jew, and how do we work to circumvent the discrimination that you've mentioned that is very real. So providing conversion paperwork, providing letters of support, those are things that I'm and many of our Black rabbinic brethren are tasked with doing. So I would just, as a public service, say to you, Brother Ashriel, and to others listening here, that you can seek help with members of the Black rabbinic community. We blend between Orthodox and conservative and Sephardic and Ashkenazi, but because we just as you said, the ability to be known in a lot of those spaces that are the institutional power structures, we can also help usher in things, which is why you see Black youth on Birthright Israel, right? That was something that was a fight that we had to fight. Now it's something that our youth in our communities without conversion are starting to see, where the state is saying, we'll pay for you to come as a youth. We hope you want to become a citizen one day. We would want to make sure we are also in brotherhood with your struggle, and we can use all legal or Torah-based means to rectify the situation. So I appreciate that. I also would want to point out that you have a lot of people who appreciated the discussion, appreciate Moreh Yaya for leading this. Sister Only Love or Hadassah is sending you her appreciation for your interview today. I don't know if you have final words of just encouragement. I know we've been talking about struggle and survival, but just some words of encouragement to the folks who have been here. It was up to 22 people or 22 families joining us, and it's also on YouTube. Any words that of uplift, where you see us working together across the waters to come home.
Hey. I gotta stop every time I see her. I'm sorry, y'all. I gotta stop
I understand.
everything I'm doing. But so in terms of first, I want to thank you, Rav Yaakov and Amore and all everybody who've been working tirelessly for us to be able to put this this piece on. My brother Omar and everybody who came in to participate in this conversation with us. I certainly appreciate you taking out of your busy schedules this morning, to come and to have a conversation with me for an hour and 45 minutes. That's not a little bit of time at all. And I appreciate, you all actually being here with me. But secondly, I think the conversation has actually been of inspiration. And the reason why I say that is because we didn't only talk about struggle, but we talked about where we were and where we are now. We talked about, ways to be able to overcome some of the things that we have experienced in the past. We spoke about the importance of us being able to work together, just like you said, Rav Yaakov, for a greater good, where you all and people in other places have the ability to be able to provide where we may be lacking, and vice versa as well, to be able to help in areas that are necessary for us to be able to ensure the covering for our people, to be able to do what we need to do to make sure that we have each other's backs on both sides. So I think that the most inspiration is just looking at what we've managed to accomplish by struggling uphill, right? With the weight of the world on our backs, but we managed to be able to continue now. So imagine what we'll be able to do now that we've managed to overcome a lot of those hurdles. Now that we've managed to overcome a lot of that struggle, we don't have to struggle the way that we struggled before. We have access to institutions. We have access to funds. We have access to other communities. We have access to social media. We have the ability to be able to connect with our people. I don't have to jump on a flight to be able to come out there to talk to the community right now. We could do it just like this. So, all these avenues are now providing us with an opportunity that we probably didn't have before. And taking advantage of these, I think, is the best thing that we could actually do, because now it will allow us to be able to be way more effective with the change that we're looking to implement and going forward. And like Rishona asked, how do we, and I think that that's not necessarily unique to our community, but how do we prepare the next generations to be able to take this on moving forward? And I think this is part of that preparation, us coming into these rooms and discussing these things and bring them to the forefront, and having various peoples from various backgrounds from the community, but coming together for one cause, for one purpose, for one desire, and then producing from what it is that we're doing, not just talking and then everybody go back to what they're doing, but actually coming together with action items for what do we do now after we had the conversation. We've talked about it. We understood some things. Now, where do we go from here? And I think that this room is allowing for us to be able to actually bring that to the forefront to discuss these. The next time I come, I'm sure the next time we come, we'll be talking about action items about how to get people, more involved. Like you were saying, Rav Yaakov, the fact that we have this, y'all have this weekly study portion or whatever, and you're encouraging people to join. But not only encouraging people to join for the purpose of being able to study along with you, but allowing people to actually be part of, a progressive movement that is actually trying to make, some implement some real change in the community that you could be able to actually quantify. You could look at it and see, this is what we managed to do with coming together, not only, helping people to edify themselves, but also giving them access to communities, giving them access to, to other things that otherwise they may not have had access to if they were not part of this circle. So I'm really leaving this conversation fully inspired, and I think everybody else, hopefully, should be inspired just as much as I am, if not more, because it's an opportunity for us now to be able to really show that we will continue this fight to the next generations, and not only just the fight, but we'll also be able to produce more than what our fathers did, because they did it when they were on the decline, and they still managed to do great things, and they managed to put us back in a motion incline, going up. They were struggling going up, and some of them didn't make it all the way to the end, but nonetheless they put us in motion, in an upward motion now, and we don't have the weight of our of the world on our shoulders now. I think the weight that we have on our shoulders now is to show and prove that their works were not in vain. And I believe that, by us just coming together right now, that's what we all are desirous of. And so that's the greatest inspiration that I'm actually leaving here with, to know that we have brothers and sisters in other places who are dedicated to the continuation of this fight. And I'll end with this. My leader, Ben Ami, always said before he spoke that he wanted to give, all honor and praises to our elders as well, wherever they may be, in whatever form they may be in, to let them know that their works were not in vain. But not only that their works were not in vain, he apologized a few times for taking so long to actually step into his calling. And because understanding that people were being affected so long as we weren't taking up the mantle and continuing it on. So I think this is, a position for us to be able to take, saying that, we need to do whatever we can to be able to ensure that the Mori Mishael's work is not in vain, that Honorable Ben Ami's work is not in vain, that Mori Mikael's work is not in vain, and a lot of other elders like that. So I'm leaving here inspired, brothers and sisters. I'm leaving here inspired and thankful and grateful.
Baruch Hashem, Baruch Adonai Le'olam, Amen v'Amen. But we feel the same way. Maureen, Yaya, thank you for your thoughtful questions. All of the audience members, you can see the amount of reasoning and meditation that people have had over this past Shabbat, and in anticipation for this call. I hope we have a round two where we can do, as you said, talk about the strategy of moving forward now that we know where we came from. Akshim Shon, we continue to pray for him. Keep him in your prayers as he recovers from serious surgery and recuperates, but he was still here watching and listening as a faithful servant of the Most High. Everyone, we thank you for your participation. Moria, just any final words and then a prayer to just end our call. And if someone could also put into the chat how to join our House of Hashem Zoom, and Ashriel, if you have a way to follow you on and your work, if you just post that as well, so people can do that before we lose our Zoom room. So, Maureen Michelle, please
post it right here in Zoom.
Yes, in the main chat.
You just touched on what I was going to say. Just share where we can find him, and keep up with the things that he's doing, because he's always doing something. He's always representing, and he's an inspiration to me, and I've always been thoroughly impressed with our people over there in Kfar Shalom. You know what I mean? It shows perseverance, and just how when you have something in your mind, do not let anything deter you. And that's just a symbol and a sign of just strength and love for this way of life, and who we are genetically, right? Because that's who we're reconnecting with our lineage, right? So it's just a place that we should always be, where we're unmoved by any obstacle, right? We're going to continue with the mission, and no matter what, in spite of anything that we face, we will face it with the Most High God as our foundation, and with that, knowing that we will be successful in it. Baruch Hashem. All right, so we're gonna we usually close out with tefillah. I don't know if you want to close us out with one, Ashriel. I would really appreciate it.
Yes.
You do one in our language, and grace us with one so that we can close out and end this.
Absolutely. אבינו שבשמיים נתקדש שמך, כי כבר הגיע מלכותך. יעשה רצונך כמו בשמיים כן בארץ. שמע ישראל יחווה אבינו יחווה אחד. הללויה, הללויה, הללויה. סלע. All right, Erev Tov, everybody.
Shalom, shalom, my brother. See you soon, my brother.
Yes, sir.
Excellent. All right, we can we'll stop streaming. We're gonna, I don't know if that'll close the room, but I think Shimshon controls that. But you want to just say a quick shalom off mute as you say, as you sign out, go ahead and do it. It is a pleasure and an honor. I love
Shalom, shalom. Shalom, everybody. Pray everybody have a beautiful week. Shavua Tov, Lakulam.
Shavua Tov.
Shavua Tov.
Shavua Tov.
Say Shabbat Tov.
Shalom.
Shalom.